number is between 0 and 255. Okay, so there's my IP address. Okay, and remember, your IP address can either be static, meaning you have the same IP address every time you use the internet, or it could be dynamic, which means when you log onto your computer and you want to access the internet, your computer goes over and asks your ISP over here and says, hey, give me an IP address because I want to use the internet. Your ISP gives your computer one back, and now you've got an IP address for this session. All right, but that IP address, even if it's static or dynamic or whatever, it's unique. Nobody else on the internet has that IP address right now. All right, so there's your IP address. That distinguishes you on the whole internet. And then we've got our network here, and basically the first thing in line on our network is the gateway computer. Okay, the gateway, again, your ISP gave you an IP address for your gateway computer, and that is your door to the internet. Okay, so here's the whole world of the internet out here, and every transaction you do, every web page you look at goes through your gateway. Now, other people are using this gateway. It's not just yours, you know. Other people on your ISP are out here, and they've been assigned the same gateway as you. And they're all, they're all using that gateway. All the traffic for all you guys is going through the gateway. Now what's out here on the internet? Well, stuff that we know about, right? Like stuff like Linux.org is out here, stuff like Google.com is out here, and there's other stuff out here too that's central to us using the internet. Things like name servers. Remember, like Linux.org has an IP address, right? But what we refer to it as Linux.org. Well, that name server is the thing that translates between Linux.org and the numbers, because all the routers and all this stuff in the network out here wants numbers. So when I say, okay, give me Linux.org on my browser, it goes out to the gateway, it goes out to the name server, and then it says, hey, I'll translate that, give you that number, and then I'm directed over to this machine. All right, so that's how the whole network is working, where everybody's going through the gateway here. Everybody on this ISP is going through the gateway, using name servers to translate numbers or names into numbers, and then the traffic's routed out here. All right. One last thing I want to talk about before we go out to the Linux screen is the special IP address 127.0.0.1. This is a reserved IP address that works on every machine, and it refers to the local machine. So when I'm sitting on this computer and I refer to 127.0.0.1, that refers to my machine. When this guy's sitting at his computer and he refers to 127.0.0.1, that refers to his machine. Same for this guy. That refers 127.0.0.1 refers to his machine. All right, so this is going to be a useful diagnostic tool for us when we're trying to determine when the network when something's not working. Is it a problem on our computer? Is it a problem in the gateway? Is it a problem in the name server? Is it a problem on their web server out here? And having that little piece of information is going to help us determine where the problem is in this whole picture. All right, so let's go back out to the Linux screen and do some troubleshooting. Let's start by looking at the symptoms and the cures for your local network interface being down. Okay, so what are the symptoms of your local network interface being down? Let me open up a Mozilla window. You'll see the window open, but immediately it comes up and says www.cbtnuggets.com could not be found. That's set to my home page, so that's where it tried to go. But immediately that came up. It didn't even spin for a while. Down here in Mozilla, you'll see like a barbershop little white and blue spinny thing going, and that thing will be spinning if it's trying to get there. But it didn't even get that far. It just said no, it couldn't be found. Check the name and try again. Okay. Another sign that your local network interface is down is if you ping that 127.0.0.1 business. Okay. Remember, that's your local. That's just a reserved IP address referring to your local machine. If you do that, it says network unreachable. That's another sure sign that your local network interface is down. Now, if like a wire is unplugged from the wall, this would still work. Okay, this is referring just to your local machine. It doesn't even have to go over that wire that's plugged into the wall. This is all working internally. So if this is not working, that means your interface is down. And the way that you can remedy that is with a restart. Okay, so you go over to network and you do a restart there, and you say, okay, setting network parameters, bringing up this stuff, and hopefully everything will come up okay, and it says okay, everything's brought up. And now if I go back and ping 127.0.0.1, you're going to see some responses here. So now that's working. Let me Control C here. Again, if I bring up a Mozilla window, we can see that that's also fixed. It's going to come up, and there, now we have the cbtnuggets.com homepage. All right, so that's the sure sign and the cure for the local interface being down. Now, just because I was able to ping 127.0.0.1 doesn't mean that I'll actually be able to ping my IP or ping my computer by its actual IP address. Okay, so here in this case, I'm going to ping this. I'm just going to hit Control C here, And you can see 4 were transmitted, 0 received, 100% packet loss. I was getting these errors, destination host unreachable. Okay, so this is a problem. What this is saying is that something's wrong here, but it's not the local problem, right? Because I was able to ping 127.0.0.1, right? And there I was getting answers back from ping, and you know, I was 3 transmitted, 3 received, perfect. Okay, but I couldn't do this. Well, the reason why lies in the output to the route command. If we look at the output to the route command, you'll see over here the first column here is destination. And if the address that it's trying to get to, like 127.0.0.1, if it looks like the address in destination, it's a simplistic explanation, but this will get the point across. If this address looks like the one you're trying to ping, then this is the interface that it will use, LO, for local loopback interface. Okay, and so that interface is the one that it uses when I ping 127.0.0.1, and that was working just fine. All right, we saw that. But when I try and ping, you know, my actual IP address, 209.11.135.226, that kind of looks like this address. So this is the row that it uses to determine, and this is the interface that it uses to do that. So when you see this, you can see this is using the Ethernet 0 interface, and 127.0.0.1 would be using the local loopback interface. And then you can see why one would work and one wouldn't work, because they're using different interfaces. So if you can narrow down that this is the problem, what that means is that's some sort of hardware problem. Your Ethernet card's, you know, dislodged, or it's broken, or the wire is unplugged from the back of your computer, or something like that. Okay, so that's the problem there. And if you go around and snug up all your wires and your card and stuff, and that's still an issue, then there's something wrong that you're not going to be able to fix probably. It's just something messed up on your Ethernet card. All I did to get this to happen was I just unplugged the wire from the back of my computer. But it's definitely some sort of hardware problem. So if I plug that back in, and then redo this again, okay, if I go back and ping 209.11.135.226 again, now you'll see that it's coming back, and that's because I plugged that wire back in the back of my computer. Okay, so that's the signs or the symptoms and the cures for Ethernet 0, that interface being down when you can't ping your own machine by its actual IP address. Once you've determined that all the local stuff is working, you can ping your local machine by 127.0.0.1, and you can ping it by its actual IP address. Then your next step would be to test out the gateway. If you forget the actual number of the gateway, again, use the route command, and the gateway address is this one down here. Okay, it's the one for the default destination. All the things that aren't to the local machine use this gateway. And again, you can see it's using the ETH0 interface, which you know is working now because you tested out pinging your local machine by its actual IP address. So now you want to actually ping this number. Okay, so you just say ping, and let me show you another Linux trick here. If you highlight this and then a middle mouse button click, that'll paste it down in the command line, and that'll just save you some typing, and I'm all over saving myself some typing. So I'll hit enter here, and now you can see that I'm getting responses back, so that means the gateway is working. Okay, if the gateway wasn't working, this would hang, and you would get those error messages like destination host unreachable. All right, so this shows that the gateway is working, and the next step would be to test if the name server is working. To determine if it's the name server that's the problem, we can use the Linux dig command. And what dig will do is it will just isolate out that part that translates names into numbers and tell you if that step is working. All right, so here's how we can use it in its like most basic form. So we say dig www.linux.org, okay? And I hit enter here, and like a couple lines scrolled off the screen saying what version of dig it was and stuff, but most of the important stuff's here. Okay, so here's the question section. It's showing you what you asked about. And then here's the answer section, so it says, okay, you want the address for this website, and there's the IP address for that website. So dig was able to translate the name into the number. All right, and it used one of my name servers to do that. And down here, it'll tell you exactly which name server it used, 209.10.34.23. And if we print out etcresolve.conf, that's the first IP address in my list. That's the first name server in my list in resolve.conf, and that's the one it used to determine or to do the translation from linux.org to the number. All right, so that's what dig does, and if this was all, you know, we went through, we tested our local network interface, we tested our gateway, we tested our name server, and they're all working, but we still can't, you know, load some web page off a server. Well, then the problem must be that server's down, and this is now we can definitively say that if we've tested those other three things first. All right, so this is how networking troubleshooting goes. You test your